So we're at Somerset House today for the London Original Print Fair, and we get like 10-15 minutes with Anders, who's the director of Hauser Wirth Editions department, which has not been around forever and a day. And this is the second time that they're here at the fair. I'm super excited. One, we get exclusive looks at Rashid Johnson and Henry Taylor and a whole bunch of other stuff. So I don't know, I got like 67 questions to ask him in 10 minutes. We're doing this. Yeah, great. This is Anders Bergstrom of Hauser Wirth fame.
I work at Hauser Wirth, based in New York, which is where our editions program is generally sort of focused, although of course we have galleries in many cities, and so the editions program does get to all our cities.
So the 40th edition of the London Original Print Fair, which I've never been to ever before, but you have.
I have, yeah. Given that this print fair is here and we have gallery here, we want to participate and be a part of the London print community.
And it is the second year you've come to this fair.
Correct, yep.
And how's it been?
Well, we're just getting started. Last night was like a little VIP night, which was super well attended. A lot of great collectors, museum curators, and familiar faces, and I think people who we also want to meet. Yeah.
Feels like from the outside that there is a rising interest in editions and prints. Does it feel like that on the inside?
Yeah, it does. The editions program at Hauser Wirth is actually about 10 years old. It sort of kicked off in 2014, and it's kind of slowly grown within the gallery program. It's gotten a lot of attention from my colleagues, from collectors, from museum people again. Enough that we now have a location in New York on 18th Street that's committed to exhibitions that are print-focused, not necessarily exclusively print, but actually just showing prints in context of an artist's practice.
Why do you think that is? Like, why do you think? I mean, it's awesome. It sounds like it's like a little library, sort of dedicated space where people can come in and look at things.
Yeah, well, we have a viewing room that's committed to prints. The way we organize our exhibitions for a fair is very similar to the way we have things in our viewing room too, which is like really cool, maybe undiscovered historic work or new work by one of our artists that we've maybe published, or something that they've done recently with even, of course, something that we didn't publish, but we want to shine a light on that too.
And is it, like in my head I'm imagining that this isn't a gallery space per se, but the person who's in New York can walking off the street, and is it like a library? I just referenced that, but I'm guessing.
No, it's a gallery.
It's a proper grown-up gallery space.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we do exhibitions. Well, it opened in fall of 2023 with the Louise Bourgeois show. It was a perfect sort of way to help define sort of the mission statement of 18th Street, which is our artists that show prints or that work in print, and we show them sort of alongside works that are maybe on theme. The Louise Bourgeois show was called Once There Was a Mother. She made prints that were about motherhood. She made sculpture that was about motherhood, and so we had fabric sculpture, we had gouaches, we had etchings that then were painted on top of. So it's not like exclusive prints, but it's print focused, and a way to show that so many of our artists, both historic and new, don't see printmaking as an other medium, but it's just part of what they do.
Part of their practice.
Yep.
Okay, so then here in the booth, you've got a number of a range of different artists, a range of different techniques and mediums. Right behind you, this amazing Henry Taylor piece. You said a second ago, you were like, classic, they gave him a paintbrush straight away.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Henry Taylor had his first real entry into making prints, and he worked with Paulson Fontaine Press in Berkeley, California. Of course, Henry is LA, so it was easy for them to collaborate. He went there on 2 different occasions for about 5 days each, and when he first arrived, of course, Henry's a painter. The first thing they did was they handed him a paintbrush, and he had made prints like early in his career, but hadn't done it for decades probably. So I think his muscle memory maybe was there, but they just said, here's a paintbrush. So it's sugar lift is the process that they went to first, which is super painterly. Basically, it's where you take something sugary, or it's actually condensed milk usually with a little India ink in it, so it becomes black, and it's basically like paint. And then he just paints right onto a copper plate whatever he wanted. In this case, he made sort of a bouquet of flowers. He paints the gesture, and then that sugar sort of mixture dries, and then there's a ground that is put on the entire plate, protecting the areas where he did not paint with the brush. And then the magic part is when you put that plate into hot water, and the sugar mixture, where the brush went the first time, begins to dissolve and lifts, and it exposes the copper where his gesture was. And then that goes in the acid, and it gets etched, and the gesture is saved. He does that multiple plates, multiple color, and you end up with this, which is like, I think about 6 different color, 6 different plates, and it's very painterly. If you get in close, there's like gestures that are exactly the painted line.
Crucial thing here is kind of wrapping your head around the idea that these are still made by the artist. I think you know, right? Sometimes you assume that if it's a print edition, it's done by some other master printer,
right,
in a studio that isn't the artist.
Sure.
But Henry was there doing the thing.
Sure. I guess that sort of leads to one of the most popular misconceptions about what printmaking is, which is that there's some other work of art that it always is a reference to or that it is derived from. But that's not what an original print is, the name of the fair we're at, and that's just the point. It's not a reference directly to like a poster of a painting. This is the result of Henry arriving in a print shop, talking with the master printers about what they want to do. They immediately figured out, for Henry it was kind of obvious, I guess, or easy. Here's the most painterly method. Let's go with that. The point is, it's a collaboration. And in theory, the best collaborations are when the artist is pushed by the master printers and that the artist pushes the master printers into doing something that maybe they haven't either. That's like an ideal collaboration. We're trying to break down the hierarchy of medium. That is, that all the different print techniques are just techniques that an artist can use to put their vision out there in the world.
Which feels like a natural transition, because I want to go look at Rashid. I mean, this is a ridiculous statement, but I'm going to say it anyway. I feel like editions are a little bit of a gateway drug, right?
Sure.
And we're now standing in a whole new section with Rashid behind me, Rashid Johnson. Most people, his paintings are unattainable for a number of reasons, right? They don't have big grown-up collections with sort of legacy, but also there's a price point thing going on there.
There's that.
And what's glorious about this, though, to your point that you made earlier, it's that this is a whole new technique, right? When you see an anxious man painting, they're like rich and deep, and that anxiety or urgency is like really in the canvas. But the thing that's glorious here is that there's like a softness and a... So how did Rashid do this?
This is a print that he did with Bob Blanton and his team at Brand X in New York. He's done a bunch of prints with him since about 2021. He made these in red and a couple others. This is hand-applied pigment. So it's a screen print first, and the technicians at Brand X are amazing. They collaborate closely with Rashid, and what they do is they first screen down, in this case, some whites. They also screen down like some enamels that are resistant to pigment, and then they take the page and put it flat on a table, and they have a big mixture of white pigment and paint, and they sort of card that whole thing down on the whole page, and the whole thing is white. And then they sort of buff it off, and they leave a lot of pigment. The pigment sticks to some parts, and it's repellent to other parts, so it reveals the sort of linen behind it. And then in other places, it's literally thick, and it kind of has the similar surface to sort of one of his paintings.
How important do you think it is for a collector to know the process?
I think it would be only additive. I mean, in fact, I feel like talking about the process really doesn't need to be the first thing. In fact, it probably shouldn't be the first thing. Instead, we know that the prints are all sort of not posters, right? These are works of art, original works of art. And so this is the artist's intention. It happens to be a multiple. So they should be able to get just as much enjoyment out of this as a painting. It's more accessible, as you say. And I would hope that, like, you know, process is a second conversation, that instead we should be talking about what he means by anxious man and what the actual underlying theme of the artwork is, instead of this is a print that, you know, he made from his other series or whatever. Like, it should be, the first thing should be what it's about, self-portrait. I mean, he's gazing like straight at the viewer. This is like an intense work of art in any medium.
Yeah, it happens in photography as well, right? Where people will ask, like, what was it shot on? Or how was it shot?
What kind of camera,
And you're a bit like, but you don't, well, I would urge collectors to not think about, like, you don't ask what someone's pen someone used
Sure.
to do a drawing.
Right.
No one's interested in the paintbrush or
The paintbrush or the glazing technique.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we do love nerding out. Like it's so,
Yeah.
even for me, I'm like, come on, how
Yeah.
how was it done?
The print community does like good nerdy conversation, and I do too. It does sort of help to understand how things are organized and how they come to be. But ultimately, it's really about the artist's intention, and it happens to be in this medium, be it screen print, litho, woodcut, what have you.
Okay, and can you give us one little like secret nugget that someone who was just walking into the booth today wouldn't know unless they had access to you?
Secret nugget?
Yeah, you must go. You have one. I know you do.
I don't have a secret nugget. I mean, do I have a secret nugget?
What about like the?
Maybe we have to get back to you on that.
Back to me on that. Jeez, you know what I mean? It's like if someone comes into the booth and you're not here.
Yeah.
And they're looking at, say, Sonia Boyce's piece, or maybe William Kentridge. What would be something that you would tell them?
Actually, let's talk about the Rita Ackermann. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Rita.
Yeah, so this is a Rita Ackermann that came to existence last year. She made these prints with Keigo Takahashi. In the course of talking with Rita, when she makes a painting, that's kind of a one-way street. That is, like, she starts the painting, she finds her way to the end, and then the painting is finished. But along the way, sometimes she maybe thought that it would be interesting to go other directions. So within this process, she was able to use the same sort of elements, like this is called 33 takes, so there's 33 different layers and 33 different colors.
In
So,
this.
yeah, so like there's a splash here that she would use in a different print, but she'd turn it around and put it in red. Or this hand on this cardboard screen would maybe be flipped and be in blue. So she was able to sort of start over with the same ingredients or the same puzzle pieces and then go down the same path and then turn a different way and end up with a different print. The other thing that happened that's so cool is she was then going back to her studio and making paintings, and she was still thinking about the collaboration, and it sort of got into her paintings too. So when we did the show last year, it was 7 of these and then 2 really monumental paintings that were actually born out of the print collaboration in terms of her concept and process even. So it was a way that like the print came first, made it kind of like, I was sort of like, this is why we have a print department. Yeah.
Is there a rule of thumb in terms of edition size? I mean, I'm stood here and I was like, I can't even, like, I would not, if I saw that in a collector's home, I wouldn't necessarily know that was even a print. It looks so painterly.
Yeah.
So is there a rule of thumb for you guys when you're advising the artist and you're sort of setting them on this journey with editions or prints? Do you say, you can't do more than 50 or you can't do more than 25 or?
Oh, the edition size?
Yeah.
We have conversation, we talk about it, and we collaborate with them and figure out what makes the most sense. Maybe it's a benefit print. Maybe it's small, maybe it's big. So you just kind of find the right formula for what the image is, if it's a benefit, if it's not, or whatever. Like these were made with no deadline, with no actual goal. This was actually like just pure like collaboration, go make things, and they came back and it was amazing. So, but we decided these are editions of 15.
So tiny.
So kind of small, very small actually.
Yeah. And what's the biggest edition in the booth?
The biggest edition in the booth might be, I guess it might be the Gunter Ferg, or it could be the Dieter Roth. Made a lot of prints in the 70s, and in the 70s, edition sizes were kind of bigger. So I think that's like an edition of 75.
But still tiny. I
But
mean,
still,
that's just to put that in context, right? That literally means that 75 people can have that artwork.
Exactly,
So
it's nice.
this is rarefied kind of air,
Mm-hmm.
despite being a bit more accessible.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And with Dieter Roth, because he didn't follow any printing rules, actually every single one is unique within that edition, because he just didn't pay attention to rules.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
This was great.
Thank you so much.
5 minutes later.
So as it turns out, there is a semi-secret, which is a small version of the Rashid Johnson surrender print. And there it is.
I mean,
Yeah.
good secret,
Yeah.
but not so secret. Riddle me this, though, going back to what we were talking about
Sure.
before. This isn't like a section lifted from that. This is a
No.
whole new work.
No, it's its own print. Yep. Yeah.
Good secret.
Also, yeah, good little semi-secret.